I am Joshua K. Sabra, Esquire, and he is Dr. Miles Salisbury, and you're listening to the Miles Ahead podcast, the intersection between mental, physical, and spiritual health for those on the path of the warrior. Stay tuned. In this episode, join Dr. Miles and I while we talk about how to survive life's ambushes, how to exhaust your karma, ending your entanglements, setting boundaries, and transcending to fight new devils at all new levels, as well as learn a little bit more about my upcoming health and fitness program, the Metabolic Restoration Plan. Stay tuned. And we're live.
Wir sind zurück.
Entschuldigung bitte?
Was?
I don't know. What did you say?
I said, we are back.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and we're back.
In German. Didn't catch that.
It is the last week of April. We're still in April, right?
Yeah. Time is flying as usual.
Crazy, man. Crazy. It's been rainy, sunny, rainy. But I'm here for it.
It's good. Yeah, before we start, we should talk about how your trip to the analropist is. The analropist, you know where that comes from?
It's a movie, right?
Show.
Okay.
Not Curb Your Enthusiasm. Arrested Development. Remember Toby? Toby is my favorite character. He's decided to try to be a therapist. It's like everybody is like a Jungian analyst or psychotherapist. And he's like, I gotta find my own name. So he decides what it is, mishmashes some words together and makes a business card, and he hands it to someone. And he look at it and he's like, I'm an analropist. And you read it and it looks like anal rapist. I wonder why I couldn't get anybody to come visit me. So you've officially visited the anal rapist, aka colonoscopy.
Oh God, yeah. My first colonoscopy, an early screening for people with, if you have some risk factors, you can get a screening a little bit early.
Never a bad idea to do it 35, 45.
Never a bad idea to do it. And especially if you have any issues in your family, it's the simplest, fastest, one of the most preventative things that you can do. So there's no downside except for being on a liquid diet for a few days. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just good practice for everybody to get in a rapid weight loss program, whether they like it or not.
What, did you lose 8 pounds?
8 pounds in 4 days. Yes.
Yeah, you intermittent fasted and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. I was surprised, a lot of hunger is psychological. And so the only thing I noticed, my energy was a little bit lower, and I wasn't training because I wasn't eating. I didn't want to do a hardcore workout. I went for a light run, did some walking, but didn't train, and probably a good thing that I didn't. But after about a day, the hunger went away. Yep. And I was no factor. So I'm kind of more interested now, and I definitely want to eat. I don't want to not eat, but I do kind of want to test out a liquid diet, water, electrolytes, protein, but maybe do it for 5 or 6 days and just examine how my energy would go if I, did that for a little while. I don't want to become like Christian Bale and the Machinist, but I do want to.
Let's not go there. Yeah.
Have some more experiments. But
went smooth.
Yeah, no issues.
Yeah, got profanol, whatever the drug they use.
Maybe that's why I was in such a good mood, because when I got done with that, I was so relaxed.
Yeah.
I went to bed early that night, and I had a lot going on. It was a crazy week. I was telling you about it before we started. The week was family medical issues from multiple family members, family conflict and drama behind the scenes, my personal health issues, I was launching a new program, which I'll talk about here in a second, an online course called the Metabolic Restoration Program. But a lot of irons in the fire, a lot of really important things going on, and I did feel like I was being tested, like a lot of karma was coming to a head, and I do feel like that's what happens when I go through a phase in life. I'm not saying I'm at a new level or anything like that, but I feel like when I am overreaching and straining my personal capacity to grow, whether as a coach or as a family member, or as a human, I do feel like a lot of my karma comes up quickly, and it certainly did this week.
In 3s or 4s.
Yeah. Did you? This is a side note onto my karma, but is a kind of a effect, or it's a part of the way that my codependent tendencies come out. Have you ever drawn the drama triangle?
No.
You know what that is?
No.
The rescuer, the oppressor, the victim are in a triangle. They're in a relationship with each other. So the oppressor is threatening the victim. The victim is trying to escape or ignore the oppressor. And the rescuer is trying to pull, the analogy is the victim's drowning, the oppressor's trying to drown them, and the rescuer is trying to pull them out of the water. And everybody needs everybody else in the triangle. And everyone takes a turn at being the oppressor. Everyone takes a turn at being the victim, and everyone takes a turn at being the rescuer.
So like in a family systems kind of a thing, or just in general?
That's a great, I don't know what the origin, what the original, it's certainly in the cycle of addiction, like, in the concept of like Al-Anon, or some of the, related relationships with alcoholics, or people with addictions. They use this triangle to describe what's going on. And so, like, for forever, I was trying to rescue my mom, but also because the victim doesn't want to get out of the water. So when the victim fights the rescuer, then the rescuer becomes the oppressor, and the former oppressor then becomes the shelter from the new oppressor, which is, right?
That gets complicated.
Everyone changes roles every so often. And as a therapist, when I was in college, was explaining this to me, that the only way to win is to not play.
Yeah. Get off the merry-go-round.
If you notice that you're narrating yourself as a victim, or as the rescuer, or as the bad guy, then you need to exit. And easier said than done. That's where the work begins. Because, right, your entanglements with the people around you, whether friendships, lovers, or whatever. But, a successful exit is when you're no longer in, any of those three identities, but you're a resource to anybody in your life who wants support, but they have to come to you for it. You can't go to them. And so, meaning that you're not inserting yourself and trying to save the day, or trying to fix other people, and setting yourself up.
Caretaking.
Yeah, that's right. And I felt like this week was a great example of a bunch of different times where I would have identified as any or all of the above in that triangle. I was not. In fact, I felt very supported by my support network, my friends, you, my girlfriend, my team, at the shop, and with all the chaos and madness that had come up, things went actually really smoothly, and I was very happy with the way things turned out.
So you've learned how to work with this, and it seems like you've learned some of those lessons and then exhausted the karma, as we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. The tactics are easy to execute if you've done the work that supports them, right? Like setting boundaries, minding your own energy, right? Like noticing where, like for me, I was noticing where I didn't think someone was going to be okay without me. And it's like I own their outcome, like I own what's going on in their life. And then I just stopped and I just like took a breath and I felt it and, did the parts work of like
Touching in.
yeah, okay. Like this is where I am afraid or angry or hurt or whatever. What do you need? And just paying attention to it, I didn't have all the right, it wasn't like a formal thing. I was just like, just checking in.
That could be a formal practice.
And then once I'd done that, I was like, okay, so realistically, what's the right response here? And it was always fine, And I think that's the thing I was sharing this with a few other friends of mine is that all of the toxic dynamics I've had in my life in the past 10 years with whether friendships or romantic relationships or work relationships, whatever they were, the toxic part of them died when I stopped feeding the energy, like feeding energy into that relationship. If I just acknowledge like where my boundaries were, basically that was like the dispel,
not making new karma.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And a lot of it comes down to, as I play this over and over in my head, a lot of it comes down to needing to be right, needing to be heard or understood, needing to feel important, needing to win, like letting someone else have the last word, like letting somebody else get the better of me, whatever that means. Usually that means I do win.
Technically, yeah.
Right? Like if I can just let somebody else, feel on top, that's great.
That's about them.
Yeah. And it's taken me 40 years to earn the wisdom to get to that place.
Takes what it takes.
And that like is concomitant with where I'm at now as a teacher and as a coach. The program that I kicked off is an 8-week program, and it arms a person with all the assets they need to be able to essentially overcome almost any normal problem that they're going to have with their body in terms of, figuring out how to build muscle, figuring out how to burn fat, how to mitigate an injury, figuring out how to get more energy, sleep better at night, those types of things. And because the curriculum is so spread out, it allows me to go deep in each of these modules and share this information with people. And I feel such relief in my heart because now people are armed with the tools and they're not waiting for me to tell them what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like they can just go hunt. And that's ultimately what I want. And I think that's why any teacher like gets into the profession, is because once you give somebody the tools then shape how they see the world. And it's like, oh, this isn't like a career-ending injury. This isn't I'm not in dire straits. This is just one more corner to turn until I get to where I want to go.
There we go. Yeah, you're empowering them. And it takes less work off you.
Yeah.
Then you don't have to caretake. That's right.
That's right. And then I just do what I really like to do, which is just, cheer people on and like, see their wins.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm in the industry. And I think it just took me a long time to figure out how to deliver.
Well, that's the fail forward thing, right? Learn. And you were talking about this program and how it works, and it sounded pretty genius, nice. Like, I don't know if you want to spend a moment to talk about it, but we were talking about it beforehand. And I was like, that's pretty clever. Like, how does it work? What do you people do?
Yeah. Well, so it's an 8-week program, and in Miles called it a decision tree. I call it a sequence, but yes, there's 8 modules, and aside from a couple of adjunct modules of just like tools and assets and skills and tactics, it is essentially it's a blueprint for looking at how to orient your lifestyle to adapt your body in whichever way you're trying to adapt it. And the reason why I think people aren't successful, because if you look online, there's some really great tools out there, really good teachers online giving really good things for, free or for very low cost. And then people get confused in understanding what things apply when and what things apply when for them. So in order to get the right strategy and the right execution at the right time for the right person, they just have to be able to answer a few questions that their body knows, but we probably, we don't do a good job of listening to our own bodies most of the time. So part of this course is teaching people how to understand what biofeedback is and how to read the signals their body's giving them. Of course, you can measure things too, and that's always good. We want to measure our biceps. I want to measure my biceps. You want to, we want to measure the gains.
Get some data.
But we also need to have a holistic approach to it. Mm-hmm. And that way, when you're asking yourself what comes next in my program, what comes next for me, the answers are not because the coach told me to, or because, that's how I've been doing this 12-week program for 8 weeks. The answer is because my body's telling me.
And then they onboard, it sort of walks them through this before they get to you, and there are videos, I'd imagine, and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. So this is all going to be shot live. So I'm going to teach each module live with them, and each module is going to come with a bunch of little mini chapters, and then they'll be able to follow the thread. Now, if somebody is, a 55-year-old male trying to build muscle, they might be in a different place than a 35-year-old female trying to burn fat. But the strategies and the tools are the same, just how you use them is different. So you're still asking the same questions, and you still care. Like, nobody wants to have an 8-pack abs without feeling strong, without feeling energetic, without being able to do, focus at work and sleep well, right? So it's really getting their priorities straight and understanding that if these boxes are all checked, move on. If these boxes are not checked, don't move on. So in some ways it slows people down, but in the long run, it ends up speeding them up because they're able to not get stuck. Yep. And I've been stuck in the same place for years, thinking I'm in a performance phase when I'm really in a recovery phase. And my body's telling me one thing and I'm doing a different thing. And so this is for people who are very achievement oriented, who want to not waste any time and move on to the next stage. But in order to do that, you have to be present with all of the data.
Mm-hmm. So we'll link to the landing page for this.
Yeah, absolutely. So excited to share that with our audience, and trying to recruit as many people as I can to come with me. The program starts in May, and the details are on the landing page. But yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Well, you had the beta test, you converted 100% of your applicants. That's pretty fucking good.
Yeah, I forgot when I was delivering it. My buddy gave me some feedback after the end of our workshop, and he was like, "That looked amazing." He's like, "That was not your first time," and it's true because I'd been working on parts of that presentation for the last 5 years, and so it's the first time I put it together in that format, but it's something that is not new to me. It's not theory. It's something that I've been helping people with for most of my career, and I just took the time to document and lay it out in a meaningful way, along with some national statistics and things that help us out from the industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds great. Making it easy to understand, and then empowering somebody and helps them self-reflect and get all that stuff out of the way before they get to the final phase where they meet and work with you. Cuts through a lot of the junk, and you don't get as overwhelmed too. And you just go to a personal trainer and say, "Fix me." Like, oh, great. I don't know what I want, but I look like this and help. And you're like, oh boy.
Well, yeah. And a great coach or trainer will just take you through all these phases anyway. Right?
True. Yeah. True.
It just, I think that this allows it to be asynchronous. So your schedule may not work with mine, or you may have a hard time doing parts of this, but it's actually going to be easier to execute because of the format. And yeah, like until I had a system, this is what I would just do with people in real life anyway.
Gotcha.
So now what this allows, to your point, it allows them to take themselves as far as they want to go on their own. And if they want to get the last 10%, great, happy to help. But I also think, like, having been coached a lot in the last 10 years, I thought when I started my journey, when I hired a coach, I kind of thought things were going to move faster, but I did not realize the amount of work that I had to do. And it wasn't laid out for me as simply as something like this. When I started my fitness business, I bought a gym that had just went out of business. I didn't know anything about running a business. I really only ever got referrals as a personal trainer. And it turns out those are the easiest people to build a relationship with, because you're borrowing trust from a third party.
Social proof.
Yeah, you have social proof and trust from a third party. So that makes it really, really easy. And as I had to talk to more people I didn't know, I realized that generating traffic and having conversations with people who don't already know you, they respond completely differently.
Absolutely.
And so I took it personally for the first few years and just wouldn't follow up with people who were like cold leads, because they wouldn't stay engaged. Right. And instead of meeting them where they were at and giving them, exchanging information and building a relationship, I kind of stopped everything. And then I hired another coach and then picked up where I left off and having to develop that skill set. And all that is to share with this, with our listeners, is that coaches give you a path, but you have to walk all of the steps, and they're there with you, but you still have to do it. Because if I do your push-ups, I'll get stronger. You don't get stronger. And so, like, I don't have a problem going to bed on time and eating. I like to do those things because I like to feel good. But if you were, I think one thing that all coaches could do for their students, and that's what I'm trying to do with this program, is to give absolute clarity that if you're bottlenecked here, don't go 3-4 steps down the road and not fix this, because you might be able to execute some of those things. It's just going to make your life harder, and it won't be fun.
It will not be fun. Yeah. Key point. Should have fun.
Yeah. Health and fitness should be a stress reliever thing, not a stress builder.
Correct.
And I think a lot of people, I think I said this in the workshop, but a lot of people, when they get to be our age, things aren't working. They start to look at hormones. They start to have injuries. And what we end up doing is they have to manage the attention of their primary care provider, of a specialist, of a physical therapist. Maybe they have a trainer or a strength coach. And now you're like a CEO of this healthcare company that you didn't want to be a part of. And it's just a bunch of extra decisions to make every month. And most of us are not equipped with the context. So this is the blueprint that I'm sharing that helps create context to all that information, so that you don't feel like you have to be the project manager anymore. You can, just live in the house while someone else builds it. Well, you're going to build it, obviously, but
yeah, or you start lab ratting yourself to see what works, and it takes a long time and make mistakes. You can do that. I've done that before, but consequences. Spending a lot of money on supplements that don't work or whatnot.
Well, and that's another thing too. I mean, we could have the rest of this podcast could just be about those things, because when we're short-sighted, and if you do an audit outside of blood work, because blood work is
key. You need that.
Even if you just a food audit, and you use MyFitnessPal or Chronometer to examine your nutrients that you're taking in every day, you're going to be deficient in something.
Yeah.
And you could take a supplement for it. If you're low on folate, you could eat folate,
vitamin D, whatever. Yeah,
sure. Or you could just change your diet 3 degrees and get it from your diet, so you're eating it every day. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people, when they look at blood work, or they get to some data they don't like from their primary care provider, instead of, sleeping in an extra 15 or 20 minutes and, changing their lifestyle, they try to take a supplement, which it's not as efficient. There are some supplements that are great.
Yeah.
But it's just not as efficient as getting it from the way that you move, the way that you eat, the way that you take care of yourself.
Sort of how nature intended,
Yeah,
perhaps.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And all the, I don't know if you get these ads on YouTube for like, there's a they call him like the most studied man in fitness. Like he's spent like $250,000 on
that guy.
On
Peter T was just talking about that guy.
it's like who's this helping?
Himself, maybe.
I guess it's for, if you get that many views on a YouTube channel, you're doing well. But I don't think that, I think that that's the fear, is that you just spend your time overanalyzing everything, and that's not really a great use of your time and energy when it comes to health and fitness.
No, you'll probably quit.
Yeah, exactly. Or get terrified, because you start to try to mitigate risks on every single thing.
Mm-hmm. It's a thing. Yeah. So on this podcast, we were talking earlier about karma and then dealing with adversity, because you sort of did that this week and exhausted some karmic links, perhaps. And I was talking earlier about Jason Redman, Navy SEAL, wrote a book called The Trident and Overcoming, I think is the second one. And that one, he talks about you get like life ambushes, and how do you deal with them? What do you do when these things come out of nowhere? And you had quite a few life ambushes in 1 week. And if you want to comment on that or flesh this one out, but I think it might be good for the listener to get some insight on how to deal with adversity, especially the life ambush types where it comes out of left field and like, holy shit. And then they come in threes, like you said. Like the whole thing with threes is mystical, but it seems to happen.
Yes, yeah, totally. I think life ambush is a good way to phrase it, and having a plan, just like you do in a real ambush, is a good thing to have. But I think for me, so much of the things that I was confronted this week, on a spiritual level, I was ready for, because I'd started this work a couple of years ago.
Right. You've prepared yourself.
And if you're an entrepreneur, or if you have kids, you've already had to have some,
oh boy, yeah.
existential dilemmas. Something you love is out in this world and putting you and your heart at risk all the time.
Every minute.
So one of the things that, there's a few spiritual principles, and I'll come to the spiritual and then the tactical. But the spiritual principle, this is happening for me, not to me. I don't know what that law is, but I do believe that how life occurs to you will dictate a lot of what emotions and thoughts and judgments and beliefs come up when these things happen.
And that's your work. That's the karma that needs tending to.
Right. And like, my, like, understanding that I'm somebody who on a good day is kind and generous, and on a bad day is codependent and manipulative and neurotic. And in that, by the way I'm saying it, is like thinking that every conversation says something about me or is somehow my fault.
The old wounds coming up.
Right. Well, knowing that about myself, that's the first question I ask myself whenever something happens. It's like, do you think this is about you? Or, I'm saying this to me in the mirror. Like, Josh, do you think this is about you?
Like 100%.
Yeah. Do you think that this is your fault somehow? Do you think that you're doing this to someone else, or so? Do you think this is happening to you? And just like saying these things out loud, because they kind of pull you, they pull at the absurd. It's like, of course you didn't cause this to happen to another family member. Of course you didn't do that. And then, because this is not your fault, how much of this is your responsibility? Well, to be a good, son, to be a good nephew, to be a kind person, what does that mean?
What does it look like?
And in saying it out loud and to myself and looking in the eyes. So I'm just like not escaping the unconscious conversation that will often happen is how can I make this person feel better so I can feel better?
So you can feel safe. Yeah. Yep.
And so with those out, questions asked out loud, then it's like I can offer empathy and support without compromising on my boundaries.
Yeah, that's well said.
And so then being a loving person, which in the past might have looked one way, and now it looks like a call. One of the things that I'd like to do is if someone texts me something painful, I call them, immediately. And doing that to show that even if they don't pick up, like, hey, this is important to me and you're important to me. And so I practice like being emotionally available, but not willing to drop everything.
Yeah, some boundaries around that.
Having some boundaries about my availability. And not everything needs a response. And I also got a few messages and inputs that really didn't require anything from me. And even if some family members were mad at me, I just said to myself, like, they can be mad at me, but they're not asking me for anything. So really, whose problem is that?
Correct.
Right? Like,
just the target.
That's right. They're just trying to vent.
Yep. Displacement, we say.
And so having those like if you understand boundaries, your 90% of this will be easy for you. But if you don't, read How to Do the Work by Nicole Lepera, or what's another good boundaries book?
Is it Byron Katie, Loving What Is?
Ooh, yeah. Byron Katie, Loving What Is. Great. I need to read that one. That's on my list.
It's a good rereader. Yeah.
So understanding those things, and then, exhausting the karma. Talk more about that, because I was trying not to feed it. And is that what exhausts the karma?
I think so. You're sort of learning the lesson. We got to flesh out karma a little bit. In the Buddhist sense, it just means action. You've caused something and it's coming back. The chickens are coming home to roost. But if you are learning the lesson and you act in a different way or do something different, you don't keep adding gas to the fire of that karma. And then it sort of burns itself out. You've spiritually learned the lesson you're meant to learn. It's a simplified version of that explanation. But yeah, I think that's kind of how we're loosely defining it here. And it sounds like you sort of were doing that this week. I don't know if you want to talk about what came up besides your analropy.
Yeah. I mean, all kinds of all kinds of things have come up. Some things are still evolving, so I won't go into everything. But one of my family members got diagnosed with cancer. My mom fell and broke her foot. So much as my girlfriend's birthday happened. There was another thing.
New business venture. That was good.
Yeah. New program launch, which is if you're an entrepreneur and you've ever launched a new business or program, then you know how that one will get you in your head, and you will they call it launch free fall. Yeah. When you put it out there and then no one buys and you're like, cool. Guess I'll just go fuck myself.
But it was a good trial run. And what do you learn from it?
Yeah. So all these things, but to your point of the chickens coming home to roost, you're doomed to, I believe that we're doomed to repeat the same lessons over and over again until we actually learn get the message from the universe.
That's it.
And grow.
That's exactly what we're talking about.
And I think then the challenges will come again. It's like if you ever played one of those side scroller video games where you like beat up a boss in level 1, and then level 2 and 3, that's just all there is. They're just hanging out, like those little mini bosses around, just you have to fight them all the time. Over again.
But I got past this one.
But you know how to beat them up, so you kind of kick their ass pretty easy.
Oh, true. Right.
So I think like some of this stuff is coming at a faster pace because I've learned the lesson and I'm not stopping, and everything doesn't stop. And I think that's the other piece too, is life doesn't just like, you can just take a mental health week from your work and just like, get some downtime or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you stop your life every time you have friction, your life will be mostly stopped.
Stagnant.
And instead of just like, because my girlfriend was like, hey, should we delay the workshop or should we move something around? Because like your appointments keep getting, pushed around from your own personal health care. I'm like, no, it's never going to be perfect. Like we're just going to do it. Fuck it, we'll do it live.
You're like in a fasted state, not like dizzy or clear.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Sometimes fasting makes you very clear.
And so it's like, my big thing is like, do it imperfectly, do it now. Like waiting for perfect will never work or never happen.
No such thing.
And so just getting on with it and letting it be imperfect and letting it be hard. Cause like, if you think that the first time that you do a half marathon or the first time you do, a new business venture or a new podcast or anything, it's going to be hard. Like it's going to suck in some way, whether it's just awkward or I'm vulnerable or whatever. So I think just getting into that space and being comfortable with it is really important.
Yes. Then to put another spiritual bent on it, I'm recalling the statement from Christianity, he doesn't give you more than you can handle. And that's a hard one to swallow, but maybe there's some truth to it. Maybe that's the karmic version. Like it's here again. Here's your chance. You can handle it if you choose to accept the mission.
Yeah. It doesn't give you more than you can handle. And I would even say like is it another Buddhist parable or Zen koan where it's like, it's the feather, it's the slap, it's the brick. Like
I think that's a koan, yeah.
It's an escalation of messages until you can't do anything else. In 2019, 2020, and 2021, I went through an emotional, a financial, and a physical shamanic death or ego death. And in each of those different deaths, like I had to let go of something I never thought I was going to let go of. And I needed that. I needed each one. I needed to part ways with every part of the way I was engaging with the world. And when I look back on it, things weren't working for a long time in all those different areas. I just wasn't listening to the
knocks at the door.
The knocks at the door. And I think we're doing to repeat things until we get the lesson. And if you were actively ignoring the lesson, like I'll give you the business one, because in 2020 I closed my gym, but I had known for a few years prior to that it wasn't working. And it wasn't working not because I wasn't a hard worker and not because of the market. It just, the business model wasn't what I needed it to be. The commitment, the cost benefit analysis just wasn't ever going to pencil.
Right.
And understanding that now, I see how if I were today, this version of myself, I would have let go and accepted. But I didn't have any other tools or ideas at the time, which I think that's what makes people terrified of change. Mm-hmm. Like, whether it's work or relationships, it's like, oh God, I have to figure a new thing out. I'm barely good at this thing. And I totally get that.
Talk more about how you were able to let go. What did that process look like? Some people are like, how do I let go? What is it? What is that? Is it like over a time thing or in the moment thing, or is it a one and done thing? And then to acceptance after that?
Yeah. Well, here's a really good question to get you on the right path. And your heart and your soul know the answer. You may be numbing it out to avoid it.
Probably.
But if you ask yourself the question, is my life working? Like, this is a question that James Wedmore he's my current business coach, business guru. He has a podcast called Mind Your Business. It's like spirituality and business mixed together. And one of his questions is, I'm not saying your program's bad or good or your business is bad or good, but is your life working? Like, can you be the person you want to be and get what you say you want? And the answer for me was a clear no. But I didn't have the, I didn't, I didn't know how it could be true that I could do something different. And I think the pairing of that, if you're in that place where your life isn't working, then I had help. I didn't have a choice to let go of mine, right? So that it wasn't like I just like walked away like Jesus, or like, or just like David Carradine in the Kung Fu Legend Continues. Just like walk out my front door and just walk down the street and just have my backpack on and just walk into the sunset.
If only.
But if your life's not working, then it doesn't matter how. You don't have to know the how for right now, but you have to write out what success looks like for you. And success, my definition of success is being the person that the things that you want flow to easily. So if you don't know how to be that person, that's okay. But if you have clarity at all on what that person looks like, lives like, acts like, what their beliefs are, what they do and don't accept, okay, can you start to align yourself with that person now? What would have to be true to start to align yourself with that person now? And that's the way in. That's the trailhead. And sometimes, so I knew that. So in 2019, I was getting educated and I was getting deeper into business, and I was reading books that were specifically for the health and fitness industry. And I started to make subtle changes in my business that made it more profitable. So we went from like teaching 32 classes a week, which is like stupid and nobody does that, to teaching 19 or 18 or 16. So much more efficient use of our time and energy. Smaller staff, higher price services. So we added on services to make them more valuable. So we started to like get to like towards what we were really trying to do, which was create this elite experience that we wanted. And it's still, even if we would have been able to move all the tiles to the side of the board that we wanted, it still wouldn't have created what we were going for. And but in the process of making those subtle shifts, I learned lessons about how to, like I said, provide more value, how to adapt, how to change, how to create curriculum, all those things I'm executing on now in a different format that I'm able to scale and provide deeper and more meaningful impact. The impact that I'm trying to have now. But if you can know what success looks like and you start to make these micro adjustments, then I'm not saying a world pandemic will happen to slap you into the away from one into the other, but there will be little opportunities that present themselves on how you can leapfrog closer to that. And again, you don't need to know the how, but the universe will help you, I believe, if you have that vision in your mind. And the key skill is being able to let go of what was, so you can grasp what is and what is coming to you. And that's you can call it gratitude, you can call it grace, you can call it presence, but I didn't have any of that. So I was really struggling with that part.
So letting go is knowing, okay, this doesn't work for me, and I know I need to go this way, and I know I can do some small things to go towards that. That's the move. Yeah. That's the letting go, then doing.
That's right.
It's kind of dropping it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so it's like, we'll give you a business analogy. So I didn't go from 5 employees to 2. I went to part-time, for my office manager. I canceled 1 class and that freed up 5 hours of time. And so I started to make micro adjustments that got percentages of my energy back that allowed me to then do other things with it. So in a relationship, like if you've got, toxic friends that are not supporting you and are kind of a net negative in your energy, then it's just, instead of going to happy hour with them once a week, once a month, right? You're purchasing back more of your time and energy. You don't have to make a complete shift. I hate you all.
My boundary is fuck off.
So instead of doing that, you just make a subtle shift and purchase some of your time and energy back, and then use that new energy to then make the next shift. And then in your health, I mean, gosh, so much of what we do with our time and energy is just counter to health.
Yeah.
So my girlfriend likes to watch TV, and she likes to watch cartoons and stuff. And so at night, once we've made the lunches and got everything ready for the next day, she'll put on an episode. And sometimes she'll just keep letting it play if I don't turn it off.
We're going to bed.
Interrupt. And she can do whatever she wants. I don't say we're going to bed. I say I'm going to bed.
There you go. Step further.
So there are things you can do in your health that are getting your time and energy back and improving your health, like all at the same time. So reducing and numbing behavior, going from 4 drinks to 1 drink, that might not seem like a meaningful change, but that's a big difference. It's a 75% drop in, alcohol consumption.
Taking action is letting go in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I think people think let go and they just think, don't think about it or just drop it in your mind.
Repress it, suppress it.
Yeah, it's not that. I mean, a version of that maybe, like if you're getting spun out or you're obsessing or going down rabbit holes, like, okay, maybe there's a version of like, okay, let's just come back to the present. Let's drop the battle for a little bit. Okay, now we're at square one here. What do we need to do?
Yeah. I mean, this is all my personal a process. I think that life is a game of adjustments. And there are people who pack up and move across the country and just start a new life in a new city. Mm-hmm. Cool. If that helps you, that's great. I'm a very free, open person, in the psychological scale, the oceans, openness. I'm very, very to the right. I'm very extreme on the openness scale of psychological traits. But even I, who am I'm very routine resistant, I don't like doing dramatic environmental changes. I do like environmental changes, but I like them subtle and then
iterate,
stack, over time. And because I need some continuity in my life. So that's my process for letting go. And I think, like, as somebody who has struggled with addictions and substance abuse, just in terms of like really enjoying alcohol as much as any mid 20-year-old, mid 30-year-old could enjoy it, I still do. But I never ever gotten to the place where I'm like, alcohol's my problem. I knew my problem was a series of mental issues that I hadn't addressed yet.
And that was just a tool done.
That was just a tool. And so I never said I'm never drinking again. I would just say, I'm going to go to bed a little earlier tonight. I'm just going to eat a better dinner before I have a drink. And through the course of iterations and adjustments, the amount of alcohol I consume just dropped by 90%. Mm-hmm. And you may be somebody who wants to go cold turkey and get in a group, and sure, there's nothing wrong with it. Alcohol is a poison. And I'm not advocating for alcohol ever.
Legit is poison.
It's just
ethanol.
There's nothing in it that you need. But I've just never been a person that could go to extremes, and that would make me crave it more if I were to say, like, you can't have it. This is your last beer.
Smell like pressure.
Yeah. So I would just took it easy, and that's always helped me. Like, I don't make wild swings. I make a series of adjustments. Mm-hmm. And
that's good to know what kind of person you are. Because there's like the burn the boats philosophy, like the person moving across the country. For some people that works. Some people, that's, if you're afraid of chaos, it's probably not going to work for you. You need iterations.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I think, like, you said it, knowing what kind of person you are, and self-awareness is key. Self-awareness so that you can get into self-development in a healthy way. And at some point along the way, self-development just becomes self-healing.
Yeah.
And it's
absolutely
more about letting go of old trauma than it is about learning new strategies and tactics. But those are good too.
Yeah, you kind of need to play with both those things.
Yeah.
Been a week for you.
Yeah. It's hell yeah. It's been a 39 and a half years for me.
You're still ahead of the game on the curve of averages here, I would say.
I think you're winning if you're happy.
Mm.
And I'm as happy or happier than I've ever been.
How do you know that?
Less terror,
Mm.
less desperation. I was on the drive back I was at the coast this weekend with my girlfriend, and we just played Scrabble and watched TV and drank wine and watched the rain fall outside of our motel room or hotel room, whatever it is.
Pacific City.
Pacific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great beach.
Exactly. It is. Yeah. Went down and had a beer at the Pelican Brewery. But I was driving back and I was just thinking like my life is so calm compared to where it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Like the amount of terror that I felt like when I was running my gym, my monthly net was $24,000. And that's 50 to 60 sales per month that you have to hit in order to make that happen.
Mm.
So the pressure I was under was like crazy, especially when you're talking about small volume sales where it's like you just have a lot of reps to put in. And then if you're like, you start the month 7 days in and you get a bunch of no's, now you know you have to triple stack your appointments to get there by the end of the month. So just like emotionally, financially, spiritually, physically, like I was always, jumping off of a burning boat onto the pier, is what it felt like, is just to get to the next day, to get to the next task. So for me, how do I measure happiness is like lack of desperation, lack of fear. I've done some of the work to own some of my insecurities, and I stopped feeding my old wounds. And that starts to, when my wounds stop bleeding out resentment and anger onto my current life got a lot better.
That makes sense. You got a lot of stress out of your life, and you had more relief, which enabled more sort of natural joy, or noticing natural joys to arise, which made you feel happy.
Yeah.
I think happiness is a slippery word. Like, get happiness, be happy. Like, great, what does it mean? Usually it's a derivative of something, like purpose and meaning, or things that give you joy, stuff like that. But getting the stress out of your life and feeling a relief from that does feel happy at first. Like, oh man, things are so much calmer.
I'm pulling up my Kindle. I'm trying to find the highlights that I made for this book that I just read.
What book?
The book is Abundance by Christian Mickelson. And I highlighted a paragraph that speaks to exactly what we're talking about.
Sounds like a good book.
Yeah, it is a really good book. Christian Mickelson is a success coach and a teacher. He's written a few books, has a few coaching certification programs, and I'm gonna mess it up. I'll figure out how to find highlighted content later on. Oh, I think I just did. 9, 10. Our ultimate power. Okay, this is from the book that I was just referencing. Christian Mickelson says in chapter 9, our ultimate power comes from working on ourselves, because when we work on ourselves, everyone else changes. Even somebody who treats everyone else the same way, maybe that person is dismissive, cold, or a bully, isn't going to be that way to you when you're different and you're healed and you're whole.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another way of saying when you change on the inside, the entire world changes around you.
Yeah, you'll rub off on other people, or they'll interact with you differently.
And yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And on top of that, the way that you see the world is a reflection of your internal state, right?
Yeah.
You see it as a threat. You see it as a problem. You see it as an opportunity. Do you see it as
You're the victim.
Totally. And I stopped seeing everything as a problem to be solved and as a positive. I started to see the world as a positive experience that's happening to me.
It's a good perspective change.
Yeah.
Pessimism to optimism, so to speak.
Yeah, well, it is exactly. And it's like, there's that book, Power versus Force, that we talked about. Like anger and drive and pride and ambition are good. They're still lower on the vibration, on the energy vibration spectrum, than like love and gratitude and peace. And it feels super weird being powered by dark fuel my entire life. It feels weird to be powered by something different.
Yeah.
Truly, I feel like sometimes I reach for baggage that's not there, and it feels weird that I can't find it.
Or you pick it up and it's lighter.
Yes, but then it's different, because then I can't hit anybody with it if it's light. Well, we could go on all day, but the point of the story is that the work that I've done qualitatively changes the way that I respond to problems now, and threats, and new levels, new devils, right? Because what was a trigger for an unhealed part of me, whether it was confronting something with my family or my parents or a close relationship or friction point, now is just another baddie on the level. And I'm looking at trying to put myself out there more, get my ideas out there more, have more conversations with more people about how to help them change and and how to grow myself. And that's doing this podcast. I mean, this is all part of the next stage. And as long as I don't regress and, embrace the past, I should be on to the next
baddie.
Unhealed trauma. Exactly. The next baddie.
It's always a next baddie. New levels, new devils. I like that.
All right. We covered it. We never talked about what you were listening to.
We skipped it.
Well, we'll put it in the bumper.
Or I can just tell people now. I discovered this guy called Novo Amor. I think it's a band. It's really fucking depressing, but it's really good. If you need to induce emotion out of yourself, check them out. Novo Amor. I can't tell you a certain song because I poached from like 12 different albums of the songs I liked, and I've got like 12 right here, but that's been good. I don't know why. I'm sort of melancholic by nature, so I gravitate towards that from time to time. Like Sigur Rós, I think I said before.
That's your Dharma band?
Yeah, if my soul could make a sound, it'd sound like their music, probably.
Maybe we should do the next episode on what the fuck is going on with you.
That might be a 14-parter. We all got stuff. I don't know. I'm just that way. It's my temperament. It's not good or bad. It just is. I like all kinds of music, but I gravitate towards the broody kind of stuff from time to time. Maybe it's induced by the fucking weather. I'm not sure.
I don't disagree with you, but I do, as someone who has a lot going on or had a lot going on. I remember when I heard Ozzy Osbourne. I'm a big fan of metal, mm-hmm. right? I liked Aerosmith's ballads, and when I heard Ozzy Osbourne's "Mama, I'm Coming Home," that song hit me really hard, and it's a very melancholic, nostalgic ballad.
Called you home.
Yeah, I was 15. Like, it's a little early to be, having weeping nostalgia.
Not considering your childhood experiences, it's not.
That's what I'm saying. We're going to have to go deep with you and figure this shit out.
We should bring my own therapist on the episode one of these times. It might be cool to have her on if she's amenable.
Well, I mean, that's just one person on your team, right?
Yep.
I mean, okay.
Yep. Yeah, I have my men's group from Connor's retreat, and then I joined his online alliance program where you get online, sort of the online version, weekly calls with a bunch of guys, and you do this work. It's really good. Men's groups are really good. In person's the best, but if you got to do them online, do them online.
Totally. I love it, man. I love it. I don't have any crazy melancholic bands to tell you, but I did listen to a lot of Rod Stewart over the weekend. Rod Stewart, man.
What did the beach do to you?
Dude, love songs.
I'm surprised you didn't come back with a mullet.
From the 80s. There's still time. I'm growing this. My hair's long right now.
You totally could bust that out.
Yeah, I was just feeling good and feeling quiet, cool, calm, nostalgic. He's got a lot of good feel good songs.
True. Yeah.
It's all about love, man.
What, a song in particular, or just?
I mean, Maggie May, Rhythm of My Heart, All for Love. I mean, you can't go wrong with Rod Stewart. Just Rod Stewart and Spotify hit play. You're fine.
Cool. We'll just put in the show notes. Listen to Rod Stewart.
Yeah, listen to Rod Stewart. He plays live in Vegas. He looks exactly the same. He wears the same outfits. He's on retainer at one of the casinos. So if you want to, maybe I'm going to do that Rod Stewart experience.
There you go. Go get after it.
Oh my gosh, me and all the 60-year-old women. Yes.
What could go wrong?
Miles are never coming back.
Yeah, I found my haven. Definitely. I hate Las Vegas. No fucking way. That place is so depressing.
Oh my God.
Went once, never want to go back.
Hey, listen. The only thing that I ask when you go to Las Vegas is don't sleep and don't stop drinking. And if you can do those two things, you're gonna have a great time.
Yeah, those are the two things I wanted to stop, and I did, because I was like, this sucks. I felt like shit. Along with all the other malarkey that goes on. It was just dark, depressing. But,
yeah, Las Vegas, yeah.
I don't get it. I really don't get the draw. I'm going to spend that money, I'd go to Hawaii or Europe or somewhere different.
Well, see, all right. I don't like Las Vegas, but now I do feel like you're throwing down the gauntlet and you're challenging me to make you have a good time. Because we could get into shenanigans.
Maybe I have to go with you. Last time I went was with my German buddies who came over. It was like 5 of them, and they'd never been. And so they want the full fucking experience.
Yeah.
And those, for the 5 days, I don't think they really slept. And they went to every strip club, every fucking show, every casino. They want to hit them all. And I was like, oh my God. And that's my first experience. I just want to go to bed. I'm tired of drinking. I hate gambling. I spent $10 on roulette and lost. I was like, fuck this. This felt like shit.
Hey, you only lost $10. That's
I don't like to lose money. I hate it. They were just getting after it. But it's a cultural experience for them. So they had fun. But I didn't. I had fun watching them for a few hours. But yeah, I don't get it. It's in a desert. I hate deserts. Just the whole thing is just like a version of hell for me.
Yeah. 5 days is way too long. 48 hours. I think you land. I think you start drinking. You get one night at a hotel room. You go 24 hours. You pass out. Then you check out. You drink until they get you back on the plane. And then they throw you in. They throw you out of the city. That's
recover for 3 days.
That's right. Yeah, that's a perfect. Yeah, it's 5 days. Way too long. Good God.
Overstimulation nation. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I'll go with you, and it'll be a different experience. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we definitely would have a checklist of things to do that would not involve, well, I'm not saying no strip clubs, but
just like buying a steak that you can't eat. You can smell it, and like, I've paid for the smell. Great. This is stupid. I don't get it.
Oh man. I thought you were talking about our strip clubs here who have really great steaks.
Oh my God.
A crop for life.
Yeah. Not my scene. Anyways.
In conclusion, don't take Miles to Las Vegas.
No, take me to Europe, take me to Hawaii, take me to Japan. I don't know, somewhere.
Take my breath away. Take me to Berlin.
There you go.
Berlin is the song. Yeah.
Way to tie it out.
No, see?
Come full circle. And if anyone's still listening.
Sorry, Mom.
Humor does help with all the stuff we talked about with adversity. The humor, gallows humor, all that stuff. It really does help.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that was perfect. Nailed it. Now you have to go through some shit. So we'll iron you out next week.
I'm always going through shit. It's all good. It's an occupational hazard. The wounded healer, right? We're mostly good, but we've got stuff. There's a reason we go into this field. No sane person becomes a psychologist, a psychotherapist. It just doesn't occur. I mean, there's maybe like that one rare person on earth, but they usually go into research or teaching. They don't do the work with people. It's hard.
There's still time for you. You could sober up.
Well, I like to do the work. It's just hard. It's really hard. On top of your own work, it's a double whammy. Yeah, we do a whole episode on that sometime on the work of the therapist. It's rough. It's good, but it's rough. It's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah. Okay. For that episode, come armed with the attrition rate for your job.
Oh yeah, it's pretty high for people. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to know recent stats.
I'll have to look it up. Even in grad programs, like the first year you lose, out of 30, you lose like 5, maybe. And then second year you might lose another. If you're in a good training program, obviously. If you're doing an online school, you're already in a bad spot. That doesn't work well.
Or a good spot if you're doing yours online.
Yeah, or you're into social work and you want to work in a hospital and something like that, perfect. But if you want to sit with humans, probably good to do it in practice live. That just doesn't occur to do it online. Two schools of thought on that. It's better than no therapy, I guess. But to get good training, I think you really got to work through your stuff in the program. My first year was all about just working with your shit. Second year is your shit and getting into working with people, like your practice sessions and stuff. And then the third year is just all about working with the person on top of the month-long meditation retreats and other stuff that I got to do, which were great.
Well, I have so many questions. We'll save them for that episode because that begs the question of how much in that first year how much did you get out of that first year of working on your underlying motivations or
my pain?
Yeah,
a lot.
And do you think the quality of investigation was the same as the quality of your investigation now today?
Yeah, similar flavor. I mean, I think a good grad program will either ask or require that you do your own therapy concurrently, or have you been in therapy? I don't get programs that don't even ask that question. Some programs, the people will go in, they've never been in therapy. It's like, I want to be a pilot. And you learn how to do it and read all the manuals and stuff. And it's like, oh, have you ever been in a plane? No. Like, how do you even know what it's like? It doesn't make sense. Then you get in the plane, you're like, oh shit. I know how to do this on a manual, but I don't know how to do it in practice. So you should be doing that work concurrently to helping other people. It doesn't make sense otherwise to me.
There's a quote. It's not a quote, but it certainly is a truism that I think people who to whom things come easily to, they think that they don't understand that they don't come easily to other people. So like, I have a friend who has never had any self-doubt and never had any issues with boundaries, never had any issues with entanglements or of any kind, and only realized in the last 10 years that other people, that's most of what their life is characterized by, is like struggles with autonomy and belief in self.
You must have had some good parenting.
Yeah. I think kind of like the psychological personality traits. I think he came from he came into a good family for sure, but his factory settings were optimized.
Right. Yeah.
And he was in a car accident when he was 8, and he remembered being fairly certain about what his mom's reaction was going to be versus his dad's, and he just had presence.
Old soul, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
there's the one person that goes into therapy that's normal.
Yeah. Yeah. And he went into we should have him on the show.
Yeah.
I won't identify him yet because he hasn't agreed to it, but he'd be a hoot. But he was talking because he had to lead a large organization through the pandemic, and he felt very isolated, and the organization was going through a lot. So he talked to a therapist for 6 months or a year, and he got a lot from it. He felt really good. But the therapist was like, so, how's your health and fitness thing? He's like, oh, I missed a couple workouts, and tell me about that. And he's like, oh, life got in the way. But he doesn't like beat himself up. He doesn't have any negative baggage on it. And he doesn't struggle with like getting himself to do things or do new things. And the therapist was like, so you never doubt your efficacy? He's like, no, I'll do it. I'm fine.
Why are you here? You need a coach now. You don't need a therapist.
Well, but he's true isolation. He's like, he probably just needed somebody to share his experience with.
There we go. Yes, that's a human need for sure. Yeah. Can't do it alone.
Yeah. Why are you here? It's like, that's the thing is, I think sometimes we can't undersell the value of borrowing from each other's nervous system.
Huge.
For
that's how we're built.
Doing anything that were difficult. Okay, we're spanning 6 topics here. Let's wrap this up.
Those are just teasers for future episodes. This is good. Keep people's appetites wet. It's good. All right. So to close it out.
In conclusion, click on the link below to learn more about my program, and do that, and I'll love you for it. And also, thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you take what you need from this podcast to help you bring forth the warrior within.
Boom. All right, we'll see you all next week. We're out.